The mine exploded with a roar, and when the dust cleared, a billionaire lay broken beneath the earth, gasping for breath. But the girl who saved him? She had a secret buried deeper than any tunnel and a reason not to. What happens next will shock you. The sound hit first, like the sky collapsing underground. A deep, bone-rattling crack, followed by a rumble that felt alive, angry. Dirt rained from the ceiling. Then everything went black. Clara May Duval didn't scream. She couldn't. The dust choked the air, thick as fog and hot like breath on her neck. Somewhere to her left, a timber snapped like a breaking bone. She blinked again, but the darkness stayed. Total, pressing, like the earth itself was trying to keep her. Then, a groan. Not the mine. A person. "Hello," she called out, voice low but firm. A cough answered. Weak. Male. Young. She shifted, ignoring the sharp pain in her ankle and the dust grinding against her skin. "Keep talking." "I'm coming up." The voice came again, barely audible. I can't move my leg." Her fingers found something. A jacket sleeve, smoother than any miner's. Expensive fabric. Out of place. "Hold on, I got you." He flinched as she touched him, wincing hard. Who are you?" She huffed. "Clara May Duval. I work this mine. And you?" Silence. Then Elliot. A pause. "I think I hit my head." "Well, Elliot," she said, tightening her grip under his arm. "You're lucky I didn't leave you for dead." His laugh was half choked, half nervous. "Yeah, real lucky." The tremble in his voice told her everything. He was scared, and despite the fear gnawing at her too, Clara kept her tone calm, steady, like talking to her little brother after a bad dream. "Lean into me. We'll get out of this." Together, slowly, painfully, they began to move through the collapsed tunnel. Her shoulder under his arm around her, heavy and unfamiliar. And though she didn't say it aloud, Clara felt something strange stir in her chest. Not fear, not yet hope, but the beginning of something she didn't have words for. Just a girl with coal on her hands, dragging a stranger back toward the light. This poor miner girl just saved a billionaire's life, and neither of them knew yet how deep this would go. The mine entrance looked like a wound, wide, jagged, still bleeding dust into the morning air. Clara emerged with Elliot leaning against her, both of them coated in soot, their breathing uneven. A few men ran toward them. One of them, old Jim, slowed when he saw her face. "Clara May, you all right?" She nodded once, sharp. "We need a stretcher. He's hurt." Elliot was trying to stand on his own now, pride burning through the pain. "I'm okay. Just need to sit." Clara didn't let go. Not yet. She looked him in the eye for the first time, really looked. His skin was pale under the grime. His eyes, too clean, too soft. He didn't belong here. "You ain't one of us," she said quietly. He looked away, said nothing. Back at home, Clara sat on the porch steps as the sun rose slow over the hills. She pulled her boots off one at a time, letting her feet breathe. Inside, her little brother, Caleb, was still asleep. And her mama, still in bed, still too sick to work, still fading. Clara rubbed her face with both hands. She didn't cry. She hadn't cried since the day they buried her father. The mine took him, and now it almost took her. But there was something different this time. Someone different. That man, Elliot. The way he clung to her when the tunnel groaned. How he thanked her, genuinely, like nobody ever had. Like she was more than just a girl with dirt under her nails. She hated that it stuck in her mind. She hated that she cared. Later that day, Clara walked into the town store to grab medicine. Folks turned to look at her. Whispers followed her down the aisle. "That's her, the one who saved him. Saved the rich boy. Wouldn't be surprised if she gets a reward out of this." Clara kept her eyes forward, but her shoulders stiffened. She didn't do it for money. Didn't even know who he was. Still, part of her wished she didn't feel so alone. At the register, Mrs. Donnelly leaned in and whispered, "You did good, Clara. Don't let him make you feel small." Clara gave a tight smile. "They don't have to. Already do." That night, she sat by the fire, the flames flickering over her tired face. Her brother mumbled in his sleep beside her, clutching the worn bear their father gave him. Clara stared into the coals, her mind far from home. What kind of man ends up in a mine he doesn't belong to? And why did he look at her like he owed her something deeper than his life? There were ghosts in Granger's Hollow, some buried in the mine, some in her memory. But Clara had learned to live with them. She just didn't know yet. One of them was about to come back. By the next morning, the whole town knew his name. Elliot Brandt, son of Thomas Brandt, CEO of Brandt Mining Corporation, worth billions, owner of the very tunnels Clara bled in every day. The local paper splashed it across the front page like fireworks. Billionaire heir survives deadly mine collapse. Saved by local girl. Clara read the headline at the corner cafe. Jaw tight, jaw clenched. Now she was a story, but no one had asked her to tell it. At the small hospital on the edge of town, Clara walked in quietly, dusty ball cap pulled low. She didn't know why she was there. Maybe to check if he was all right, maybe to clear the air. Elliot was propped up in bed, one arm in a sling, reading something on a sleek tablet. The moment he saw her, he set it down fast. "Clara," he said, voice warmer than she expected. "You came." "I ain't staying," she said quickly, hovering near the doorway. "Just wanted to make sure you didn't croak." He laughed, a real laugh. "Not yet. Thanks to you." Clara shifted uncomfortably. "You lied down there. Said you were a consultant." His expression changed. A flicker of guilt crossed his face. "Yeah, I wanted to see the mine myself. Without all the PR filters. Guess I got what I asked for. You almost got killed." "Yeah," he said again, softer this time. "I know." They were quiet a moment. Then he asked, "Why'd you come back for me?" Clara frowned. "You think I'd leave someone to die?" "No, he paused. "Not everyone would have risked it." She crossed her arms. "You got no idea what people around here risk every day. You dropped into our world like it's a tour and we don't get to leave. We live there." His eyes held hers, no smugness now. "I know. I didn't understand." "Not really." Clara's voice was quieter now. "You still don't." But something softened in her as she turned to go. "Rest up, Brandt. That arm won't fix itself." As she stepped out into the sharp morning sun, a mix of emotions churned in her chest. Anger, confusion, and something she refused to name. Later that evening, Clara returned home to find a black SUV parked outside the porch. A man in a suit stood waiting. "You're Clara May Duval?" She nodded cautiously. The man handed her an envelope. "Mr. Brandt sent this. He asked that you consider attending a company event this weekend. He wants you to speak." "Speak," she blinked. "About what?" "Your story. The rescue. Your bravery. It's inspiring." Clara looked down at the thick card with its gold lettering. It felt heavy in her hands. "I didn't do it for a spotlight," she muttered. "Maybe not, but people want to hear it." As he turned to go, Clara stood there, staring at the invitation like it might bite her. She didn't want a stage. She wanted answers, but something told her this might be the only way to get them. By Saturday, the town had turned quiet and sharp. At the diner, at the gas station, even outside the church, Clara felt their eyes. Not mean, not kind, just watching, measuring, judging. She overheard it more than once. Guess she's one of them now. Wouldn't be surprised if she walks out with a check and a brand new life. She saved the boy who's been bleeding this town dry. Clara kept her head down. She'd faced rockfalls and cave-ins, but nothing like being called a traitor by people who'd once nodded to her like family. The company event was held in a big tent outside the Brandt mining offices, white, clean, polished. It looked like it had never seen dirt. Clara arrived late in her best clothes, which still smelled faintly of coal dust, no matter how many times she washed them. People clapped when she walked in, but it didn't feel like applause. It felt like being looked at. Elliot was waiting near the front, a bit cleaner now, his sling gone. He smiled when he saw her. It wasn't smug, it was hopeful. "You came." Clara nodded stiffly, still not sure why. "There's something about hearing the truth from someone who actually lives it," he said gently. "This place, my family's company, they need that. They need you." She looked around at the people in suits, holding wine glasses and talking about resilience and growth like it was some market trend. "I ain't a prop," she said flatly. "I know," Elliot replied. "And I didn't bring you here to be one." A mic crackled. The company's PR lead smiled big and plastic. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our special guest and hometown hero, Clara May Duval." Clara froze as all heads turned to her. For a second, her knees threatened to give. She didn't speak in front of crowds. She barely spoke at all unless she had to. But Elliot's eyes were on her, steady, not pushing. And in the back of the tent, she saw someone else, her little brother, Caleb, sitting tall in a borrowed button-up shirt, his feet barely touching the ground, watching her like she was 10 feet tall. So Clara stepped forward. Her voice was small at first. "I wasn't trying to be brave," she began. "I just heard someone crying for help, and I went. Same thing I'd want if it was my brother under all that rock." People leaned in. The room grew quiet. "But what I did down there, that wasn't special. What's not right is that anyone's still dying in those mines to begin with." Gasps. Awkward shifting. A ripple of unease. Clara looked at Elliot. He didn't flinch. "I lost my daddy in that mine. They called it an accident. Same way they'd have called what happened to Elliot an accident, if I hadn't pulled him out." Her voice cracked, but not from fear. From something deeper. "Truth. I don't want your applause. I want change. Real change. For every single person who goes under that ground and hopes they get to come back up." She stepped down. Some people clapped. Others didn't. But she didn't care. She'd said what needed saying. Outside the tent, Elliot caught up with her. "You were incredible." She laughed bitterly. "No, I was honest. There's a difference." He walked beside her in silence for a moment. "Then, there's something I need to tell you. About your father. About what happened to him." Clara froze. Her chest tightened. "What do you mean?" "I found something. Records. Old payout files. Signed off by my father." Her heart thudded in her ears. "You're saying they knew the mine wasn't safe?" Elliot nodded. Shame in his eyes. "They paid your family to keep quiet. That's why no one ever talked about it. It was buried, like everything else." Clara staggered back, the ground tilting slightly beneath her boots. She had come for answers. But this was betrayal, truth, and something she could never unhear. The file was thin, just 4 pages, but Clara stared at it like it was a casket. Elliot had brought it to her in person, printed from a locked digital archive. The brand seal was stamped in red ink at the top, next to the words, "Internal Liability Settlement, Duval Family." "It was never about justice," Clara whispered, her voice dull. "They paid us to shut up." "I didn't know," Elliot said quietly. "I swear, Clara, I was in school when this happened. I only found out yesterday when I dug through the legal archive." Clara didn't look at him. She couldn't. My mama never said nothing. She just cried when the check came. I thought it was 'cause we finally had money for food. But now I know it was shame. She set the file down on her lap. Her hands trembled, but not from fear. From rage. "They called my daddy reckless," she said, eyes blazing. "Said he ignored warnings. Made it sound like it was his fault the shaft gave out. And the whole town believed it." Elliot swallowed. "My father, he signed the report himself. The structural weakness had been flagged weeks before. But fixing it would have cost too much, and—" "I don't need the math," she snapped. "I live the cost." Silence hung between them for a long moment, the kind that changes everything. Clara stood and walked to the edge of the porch. The sun was setting, throwing gold across the valley, softening the hard edges of everything, except her. "You gonna expose it?" she asked, not looking back. "Yes," Elliot said after a beat. "Even if it burns everything my family built." Clara nodded slowly. "Then you might finally earn the life you were born into." She turned, and for the first time since they met, her eyes were wet. "You know what hurts the most?" she asked. "It's not the lie. It's how much of my life I spent believing it." Elliot stepped closer, gently. "Let me help make it right." She looked at him, really looked. Not as a billionaire, not as a boy she saved, but as someone standing in the fire beside her. "I don't need you to make it right," she said, voice soft but firm. "But I won't stop you if you try." That night, Clara sat by the fire again, the folder in her lap. Caleb was asleep inside. The house was quiet. She opened the last page, a scanned signature in blue ink. Thomas Brent, the man who signed away her father's life like it was a business risk. Clara didn't cry, but she finally let herself feel it. The grief, the betrayal, the truth. And with that, something inside her finally let go. The town hall smelled like fresh paint and old politics. The Brent Mining Community Listening Forum was in full swing, with rows of chairs filled by miners in denim, executives in press suits, and reporters itching for a headline. Elliot stood at the front of the room, his face pale but steady. Clara stood just behind him, off to the side, arms crossed, the file tucked tightly under her arm like a weapon. He glanced back at her once. She gave the smallest nod. Elliot stepped up to the mic. His voice was clear, unwavering. 2 weeks ago, I almost died in a mine collapse, one that never should have happened. I was saved by Clara May Duval, a woman braver and more honest than anyone I know. And I owe her more than just my life. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Cameras flashed. Elliot continued. While recovering, I uncovered documents in our company archives, proof of negligence, cover-ups, and settlements paid to silence families after deadly incidents, including the Duval family, including Clara's father. Gasped this time, louder. I am no longer representing Brent Mining as a future executive, he said, breathing deep, because I will not build a future on a foundation of buried lies. He stepped aside. Clara's heart was pounding, but her feet carried her forward before she even thought to resist. No mic, no speech, just her voice. My daddy was a good man. He followed every safety rule they gave him. He died anyway. The room fell still. They told us to keep quiet, that if we just took the money, we could move on. But no one ever really moves on from a lie that big. Her eyes scanned the faces in the room. She saw old Jim, arms folded tight. She saw Mrs. Donnelly, crying softly. She saw miners who had worked beside her father, shame on their faces. I don't want your sympathy. I want truth. And I want a future where no girl has to grow up holding her family together after the mine takes everything. She looked at Elliot. This man's got the power to change that. And he chose to stand here instead of hide. That means something. Then she stepped away from the podium, her chest rising with each breath like she just surfaced from deep water. Outside, the evening air hit her face like a wave of freedom. Elliot caught up with her. You didn't have to speak. I did, she said. I just didn't know I could. He smiled, not with pity, but respect. What now? Clara looked out across the street, where the mine entrance sat silent under the dimming sky. Now, she said, a quiet strength in her voice. Now we start digging in the right direction. The mine didn't shut down overnight. Truth never works that fast. But something shifted. Inspections were ordered. Executives were fired. The name Duval was spoken with respect again, not pity. And Brent Mining, once untouchable, was now under investigation. In town, people started greeting Clara with nods that meant more than words. The whispers stopped. The shame began to melt into something better. Dignity. 1 week later, Clara stood at the edge of the shaft, boots planted firm in the dirt. The air smelled of coal and rain. Elliot joined her, not in a suit, but jeans and a jacket with dust on the sleeves. He stood beside her without speaking, hands in his pockets, like he knew this moment wasn't his to lead. She finally spoke. Funny how something can nearly kill you and still call you back. Elliot smiled faintly. You thinking of going back in? She shook her head. Not yet. Maybe never. But I earned the choice now. That's the difference. He looked at her, thoughtful. I'm leaving. Selling my shares. Using the money to start something smaller. Honest. Clean. Clara raised an eyebrow. No more billion-dollar lies. No more pretending I know better than the people who live the truth every day. She nodded slowly. That's a start. A beat passed between them, gentle, unspoken. He offered a small grin. If I wrote you a thank you letter, would you read it? I'd rather you meant it, she replied, lips curling into the hint of a smile. As he turned to leave, he hesitated. I'm glad it was you who found me that day. Clara watched him walk away, sunlight catching the edge of his jacket. She stood there a while longer, just listening. To the wind, to the quiet hum of something healing. No riches, no fairy tales, just a girl who saved a billionaire's life, and in doing so, reclaimed her own. And maybe, just maybe, his heart wasn't all she saved.